It is Monday the 4th of March 2019, just arrived at the Civic Centre. Meeting today is Corporate Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Well, the meeting's now finished and we had quite a thorough look at support for the voluntary sector via various charitable bodies, and one of the big issues that we've had about applications for funding is that a lot of groups are put off applying for grant funding from external organisations because the application procedure is so intensive and difficult. So pleased to see that the National Lottery side of things have improved their application process, so it's less off-putting, so that helps various things. So anyway, meeting now over and about to head back home. Back home now, and these are some of the letters that I've got to deliver for the patches I do in my ward. So I've already delivered one patch this afternoon and I've just popped back home to get another patch. Trouble is, because they're addressed, then I need to be wearing these things when I'm wandering around, putting those letters through doors, which is not always very easy because I use these for reading, and when I'm wearing them in the street, I can see less, so they're rouged down the bottom of my nose. Anyway, this lot about to be delivered now. It is Tuesday the 5th of March 2019. I'm heading down to Swarwell. The reason I'm doing that is to take some photos with Chris Ord, who is going to be outside the J&J Stanley scrapyard, and the Lib Dem councillors there have been campaigning for that site to be cleared up for years now, and they've got a success story now because the site is now closed, but it is being marketed for housing, and it's a good use for a brownfield site. More houses there means fewer built on greenfield sites. So I'm going to get the photo taken, and I need that photo today because it's the last bit of last bit to go into the e-Focus edition 114, which is due to go out tonight. It is actually quite a big site, so you get quite a few houses on here. Better here than on greenfields. First Tuesday of the month, so that means that I'm here in Sunnyside Club for the meeting of Sunnyside History Society. Now, it's quite an interesting speaker we've got tonight. It's Richard Pears, who is who's going to give a presentation on the photographs that were taken by a man called Jack Metcalf, who took a load of photographs of the Wickham area during the 70s, 80s and 90s. So this is within our living memory, and therefore sorry, being interrupted there. This is obviously something that's of great interest to all of us, but we'll be testing our memories to see if we can remember some of the shots. Well, the talk is now over, and I've got to say that Richard Pears' presentation was absolutely fascinating. It had everybody in the room sort of digging through their memories, remembering old buildings and so on. Really good time. So I'm hoping that Richard's going to take up my suggestion that I gave to him, that I can do a talk to his Wickham Society, History Society, about the historic photos, or the photos I've taken over the past 30 odd years of being a councillor, which show how Gateshead has changed over the past 3 decades. So I made that suggestion to him, and hopefully he'll be back to me and inviting me down to talk to the Wickham History Society sometime next year. Well, I'm back from the History Society meeting now, and I've done the one final change to the e-focus, which is to add in that photo there that I took at lunchtime of Chris Ward at the Small Wall Scrapyard site, and this has now been sent out to people on the recipient list. So this is what is in their inbox now. It is Wednesday the 6th of March 2019. Just arrived at the Civic Centre for a members' seminar. Well, the seminar's now over, and it was about early intervention in child services. 2 points I made. One was that the system in terms of social services and health in this country is too reactive. So in other words, problems are left to brew for ages, and therefore when they are tackled they are much bigger problems than would otherwise be the case if there was an early intervention. And secondly, the guy presenting the seminar talked about a scheme that they've got where they actually take people from in poverty, and they go out with them to do the shopping with them, and then go home and do the cooking with them as well. And what they're actually doing is showing people how to cook, how to buy sensibly priced foods and cook, because often they don't have basic skills, which, sorry, just arrived back at the Land Rover, which means that they're dependent on often takeaway foods or foods from shops which are local but more expensively priced. So it's all about sort of increasing people's skills levels. And the point I made was that often people are in poverty because they don't actually have a range of basic skills, and this is a way of helping them overcome that and helping themselves to climb out of poverty. So therefore that was clearly something that I'd want to be supporting. Anyway, it's now tipping it down, and I'm actually off to an outdoor meeting with Nick Seaborn, who is our candidate in Lobbery Hill and Bensham. So we're going to have a look at a local park where we're looking to organise a litter pick, but I'm not quite sure whether we want to be doing it in weather like this. Okay, right, I've actually just phoned Nick, and we've decided that we're going to postpone for a few days the visit to the prospective litter pick area, simply because it's absolutely tipping it down. So, but it also gives us the opportunity to finish printing some more letters for Nick, because the area where we were going to, he was going to put out some letters, we printed them. We expected to only have to produce 200, but we printed 300 letters, and then we discovered that we needed 450. So it's a much bigger letter drop than we expected. So, but at least that'll give us time to get that ready, and we can get them into his hands. We'll probably meet up with him on Sunday. It is Thursday, the 7th of March 2019. That is the Woodman's Pub behind us. I've been supporting a planning application that they've got in for an extension to create a functions room at the back, and because it's in Greenbelt, then it throws up all sorts of planning issues in most circumstances. It would have been given the go-ahead, but because of the Greenbelt, then there are issues that need to be sorted. So the planning committee is having a site visit today, and I've arrived a bit early for that, but we're waiting for the bus to arrive now. Well, the minibus has now arrived. The planning committee members are here, and the actual extent of the new build has actually been measured out there. Well, visit now over, and I'm about to head off to Heading on the Wall, because I've got 2 baby goats in the Land Rover there, and they need to be checked out by the vet. It is Friday the 8th of March 2019. I've just arrived in Marley Hill. 2 reasons for I'm coming here. The first one is to deliver these letters. It's a target mail shot that we're doing to constituents and residents in a number of wards, but that's the one for my ward. So I've got, can't remember the exact numbers, but it's a few thousand to deliver. Not me personally, but part of the team. It's delivering them. And secondly, because I'm in Marley Hill and there's various privet hedges up here that need trimming, then I'll be doing a bit of trimming to feed the trimmings to my goats. Hurrah! Letters now delivered in Marley Hill, so off to get a bit of privet for my goats and then head back home. It's Saturday the 9th of March 2019 and I've just arrived in Bensham. I'm meeting up with Nick Seaborn, who's our candidate in Lobley Hill and Bensham, and we're just going to have a sort of quick visit to one or two locations in the ward and get some photos, and these will be used in his forthcoming election campaign. Right, okay, we've done the visit to Bensham. We were particularly looking at the park at Windmill Hills, and it was living up to its name. It was incredibly windy, so I didn't do any video there, but I do have some photos which I'll show you. And these are the issue that we were looking at was about grounds maintenance, and this park has a number of areas where there's virtually no maintenance at all taking place. And in our budget, our budget amendment, we called for further £300,000 in savings, plus £1 million from reserves. So 1.3 million to be diverted to cleaning up litter and to better grounds maintenance. And Windmill Hills was a good example of why that needed to be done. It is Monday the 11th of March 2019. I've just arrived here in Lowfell. It's about coming up to 10 o'clock. Going to Costa Coffee, or Costa Fortune as I know it. Not specifically to go drinking coffee, but I'm meeting up with Daniel Duggan, one of our Lowfell councillors, and also Nick Seaborn, who is our candidate in Lobley Hill and Bensham ward, and the aim is to put together the rest of the election campaign for Nick's ward for the local elections. Well, all the tables at Costa Coffee are taken despite the expense of drinking coffee there, so we're going to Stairways Cafe instead.
Oh, we're not going to fake doses.
Oh no, you don't need to think behind them.
They're going out yet. It's a surprise.
Oh, it's a surprise. Right, okay, right. Well, we are actually rolling now. So.
GDPR compliant here.
Right, okay, we've had our meeting, and I'm pleased to say that Nick is raring to go in terms of the Lobley Hill campaign. Daniel here has been doing the interviewing along with me, and Nick, as you can see, is all ready, waiting to go off and deliver more letters.
Lever, you better watch out.
Yeah.
I'm coming for you.
Yeah. It is Tuesday the 12th of March 2019. I've just arrived down in Wickham, in the Wickham part of my ward, and I have a large quantity of letters to deliver. So that's what I'm going to spend the next 2 hours delivering, putting that lot through people's doors. It's Wednesday the 13th of March 2019, just arrived at the Civic Centre now. It's planning committee. I'm not on the planning committee, but at the last planning committee I spoke in support of the application by the Woodman's Pub to have an extension out the back. The committee delayed a decision so they could have a site visit, which happened last week. They are back meeting now and will be taking a decision on that application. So I've come along to see what the outcome is. Well, I've just got home. We had 4 hours of other planning applications that we had to sit through before they got to the Woodman's one, and then they took the Woodman's one. And we won it. Absolutely delighted. I think everybody on the committee actually voted for it. So I am absolutely delighted. Lee, the owner, is delighted as well, and I think it's going to be a great asset for the local community and for jobs and for the tourism industry, which I'm determined we need to build up in our area. But it was worth the wait, so I'm absolutely delighted. I've just arrived back at Gateshead Civic Centre and it's coming up to 6 o'clock, and the reason I'm back is for Lib Dem group meeting. The meeting is now over. We are putting in one motion to full council next week, which is about epilepsy and raising public awareness of it, and I'm having to leave the meeting a bit early, and the reason for that is I'm due at the Litton Phil in Newcastle for a book launch by the Land of Oak and Iron. So the group's upstairs still discussing local election issues, and I'm heading off now. Well, I feel as though I've been on a bit of a wild goose chase. I went to the Litton Phil and up to the first floor, and the guy there said, "Oh, it's downstairs. Go downstairs, turn right, and then follow the corridor right the way down." So I did. Every single door was locked. He did say that because I was 20 minutes late, I probably wouldn't be allowed in anyway. So I've given up. I'm going home. It is Thursday, the 14th of March 2019. I'm in Sunderland, and the reason I'm here is because we're having a meeting of the Necker Scrutiny Committee. Now, this was the committee I was appointed to after the North East region fell apart because of the issue of devolution last year. So, as a result of that, Necker is now smaller, having lost the authorities that are north of the town, who have gone off and done their own thing. But it meant that I was, I guess, promoted, for want of a better term, to the Necker, or the remnants of Necker, Scrutiny Committee. So off there now, and I've been reading on the metro on the way over the economic reports. I'm back at Gateshead now, just got into the car in the Civic Centre car park. I've got to say that one of the reports on the Scrutiny Committee agenda I wasn't happy with, or wasn't happy in the sense of some of the language that they were using, where they were talking about the need for job creation, yeah, absolutely, and the need for what they called better jobs, and they defined better jobs as being managers, professionals and technicians. And I thought, well, you know, if you're going to use that definition, that excludes most other people who are just therefore defined as worse jobs. And this sort of elitist language is absolutely ridiculous. So I made my views on that quite clear, that I wasn't happy with the language that they would use. One of the interesting things, though, that they had in the report was about the development of the zero carbon energy sector. So obviously that's something that's of great interest to me because of my lifestyle. And I did make the point that come a no-deal Brexit, if all tariffs are abolished, as is suggested, or most tariffs are abolished, as is suggested, wind turbine manufacturers in the region could be end up buying their parts from abroad, which means that when it comes to re-exporting those manufactured wind turbines, they could end up coming up against rules on origin. In other words, where rules require a certain minimum percentage of manufactured parts to come from a particular country. And I did point out that that could be detrimental to both the manufacturers of the wind turbines, but also to the British-based suppliers of the component parts as well. So we'll see what comes of that. It's about 9:30 now. Just been to our Bladen branch meeting at Marley Hill Community Centre, and I have a long to-do list to keep me occupied, but also we've spent a lot of time sorting out the local election campaigns, and we are quite satisfied with how things are progressing. It is Monday the 18th of March 2019, back at the Civic Centre. It is coming up to 6 o'clock, so we have a group meeting because on Thursday we have full council, so we always have a group meeting the Wednesday of the week before and the Monday of the same week as full council. This is a meeting that decides what our position is on various issues that are on the council agenda, but also to propose amendments as well. I'm back home from group meeting now, and it's approaching. Well, it's just gone 11 o'clock, about 20 past 11. I've spent the last few hours reading through this lot. It's the cabinet papers for tomorrow. Normally I would just read them on the iPad, but I asked for a printed copy because there's just so much stuff that I'm planning to raise tomorrow. So I can't really write it on the iPad, but I can certainly write it all over these sheets of paper. But there's quite a few different issues on there, on the agenda tomorrow, including the very late housing strategy, and we've also got the community asset transfer of Marley Hill, Bowling Green, and lots of other things as well. So I've made my notes in there. As I say, it's 20 past 11 now. I've got one more job to do before going to bed, and that is to go and feed our baby goats. It is Tuesday, the 19th of March 2019. Just arrived at the Civic Centre for cabinet meeting. Well, the meeting's now over, and I'm back at the car now, and quite a long agenda. All the points that I'd planned to raise, I did raise. One of them was about the cost of Brexit to Gateshead, and the council has received a grant of £210,000 from the government to make preparations for a hard Brexit. And I asked the question whether that was adequate enough, and the reply came back that no, it wasn't. There's much more resources, cash and manpower going into preparing for Brexit than the £210,000 that's coming from the government. So that means that we are having to effectively put people to work on preparing for Brexit when those same officers could actually be running services or making applications for funding for town centres, as I pointed out. Basically, we're having a huge amount of our resources soaked up to prepare for a no-deal Brexit, which could be better put to improving services in Gateshead. It's 7:30 in the evening, and I've just arrived at Heworth Golf Club for the Gateshead East branch meeting. Well, just back home from the meeting, and good talk about the local election campaign, and report back on what we've been up to on the council recently as well. But I'm back home now, so time to call it a day. It is Wednesday, the 20th of March 2019, spring equinox. I'm back at the Civic Centre this afternoon for a seminar, followed by a chairman's meeting for Corporate Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Right, the meetings are now over. The first one was the members' seminar, which was about tackling poverty in Gateshead, and then I went straight on to the chairs meeting, which turned out to be a lot longer than I expected because we had quite a wide-ranging discussion on a number of issues. But I've now finished, so heading into the car, and I'm off to do some filming at the car now. And the filming is for some, I suppose you could call them party political broadcasts by the Gateshead Liberal Democrats, which will be sort of short videos about our 6 to Fix policies, which we'll be putting on the internet. I've just arrived in Wickham. It's coming up to 6:30 in the evening. I'm off to the Crown pub, and not for a drink. It's the next meeting of Planting Up Wickham. Well, the meeting's now finished. Various dates sorted, including for the day when we do all the stripping out of the beds on Church Green, and I've got a few other sort of fair dates in my diary, which are not organised by Planting Up Wickham, but which I was aware were coming up, but I didn't actually have the dates for them, so managed to pick them up. Right, stand under some light for a moment. Heading back home now. The Facebook and social media are abuzz with speculation that Theresa May is about to call a general election. I don't think she is, But there again, when the speculation 2 years ago was rife that she was going to call the general election, I didn't believe that either, and I was wrong. But is she going to make the same mistake again? I don't know. Everything's just too up in the air at the minute, politically, nationally, to work out or even to guess what is likely to happen if an election is called. But I still don't think she'll call one. It is Thursday, the 21st of March 2019. Back at the Civic Centre, it's full council. Well, the meeting is now over. It went on for an awful long time, much longer than I expected, because well, it's 4:45 now, and I was expecting to be out by 4 o'clock. Anyway, I spoke on, I think it was 4 or 5 different issues. As I expected on the education motion, typically the Labour Party speaker, the saintly Gary Halo, who once stood against me and actually twice stood against me and completely annihilated him. He had a go at us about effectively we were 8 babies whilst we were in coalition government. So I just pointed out a few of the things that we had done in government, such as the pupil premium, free school meals for infant children, and the education budget was protected. But of course they still try to make out that somehow we are currently responsible for all the Conservative government's nasty policies. Let's see how things go, because at the current rate, I know the Tories are tearing themselves apart, but at the current rate that Labour's going in the polls, then they're going to get nowhere near winning for years to come, because the Tories have shredded themselves and they're still 10% ahead of Labour in the polls. But that's the bit that Labour just ignores. But in Gateshead, they just constantly harp on about the coalition years, and they have no understanding at all about austerity, no understanding of the fact that they supported officially austerity in 2010 general election, and as soon as austerity measures were introduced, they were against them, and they are now claiming they're an anti-austerity party. Well, it might be now, and that's debatable, but they certainly were an austerity party back in 2010, which for them is the day that all history seems to have started. Recognise the familiar chug 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 noise? Yes, it's the risograph, and we're back in the office printing more leaflets, and I've got some for Lobley Hill and Bensham to do, some for Dunstan Hill, and some for Peelaw and Heworth. So it's all wards that we're interested in fighting very keenly. Just finished the printing, and I've got Nick's litter pick letter there, which he's going to put out over the next few days, and some more of the letters that Nick has been putting out in various parts of the ward. He ran out, and we've printed more to make sure that everybody on the list, our target list, is getting a letter. It is Friday the 22nd of March 2019. Just arrived on one of my old stomping grounds, which is Watergate Estate, because we have a load of letters to deliver. I'm not quite sure of the actual numbers, but I know there's 370 houses on this estate. Not every house will get a letter, but most will. Well, I'm pleased to say that I've now delivered the patch. 200 letters delivered. These 3 weren't, because people had notices up on their letterbox saying no junk mail, and although I don't regard this as junk, I'm sure everybody else will do. So that job now done. I can get home and get sorted with an additional parliamentary campaigner. I was phoned by the chairman of the board a few minutes ago when I was in the middle of delivering, asking if I'll send out something about a sort of brief parliamentary campaign about the People's Rally tomorrow, so it'll only take me a few minutes, so that's my next job. It's about 8 PM now, so I'm about to head over to Felling to drop off with one of our party members a stack of leaflets for Peelor and Heworth and for Lobley Hill and Bensham, and these were the leaflets that I was printing last night. So, top ones are for Lobley Hill and Bensham, and underneath it's for Peelor and Heworth. It is Monday the 25th of March 2019. Just been calling at John McCleary's house for some election forms to be signed by our nominating officer, who is Frank Hindle, which basically means that we can have the once that's signed, we can have the Lib Dem logo on the ballot paper. There's all sorts of rules now about what goes on ballot papers and who can sign for what. But I'm off now to Wickham for the meeting of it's Lighting Up Wickham, and this is the organisation that raises the money for the Christmas tree in Wickham Village each year, but it runs things like they do the annual fair in St Mary's Green and so on. So I'm assuming that's actually going to be discussed tonight. So hopefully it is, because we certainly need to set a date for it, because other fairs are starting to be booked as well, and we need to get in there early if we're not going to be blocked out by everybody else's fair. Well, I've now arrived in Wickham. The meeting is in the Crown, which seems to be one of the favourites for meetings for voluntary organisations. Right, meeting now over, and I've managed to pick up a sort of significant list of local events that are taking place, which means that people will be asking me to take our goats to these events. The summer fair has been booked for the 6th of July, and also I was chatting to one of the teachers from Wickham School, and they're looking for us to repeat the event that we had last year, where we took some of the goats into school as part of Mental Health Week. So, meeting now over, and I'm heading home. It is Tuesday the 26th of March 2019. I spent the morning putting together the members' email newsletter, but tonight I am heading to a history lecture about how the Ice Age affected the geography of Gateshead. Well, I've just arrived at the venue, which is Joseph Swan Academy in Lowfell, or near Lowfell. Well, I didn't realise rocks, glaciers and rivers could be so interesting. So fascinating look at the history of Gateshead in terms of its geology. But meeting's now over, so about to head home. It is Wednesday the 27th of March 2019. Would you believe it, I'm back in Wickham at the Watergate estate again, because we have what is effectively our first election leaflet, which is this focus to go out, and I've got 370 to deliver. And look at this. This is the Lib Dem must-have fashion accessory, a bag for delivering focuses, and as you can see, that's what I've got to deliver. Well, I'm pleased to say I've just finished the patch, and that's my bag there. A lot fewer leaflets in it now. I think I've got about 10 spares in there. But that's me done now, so I'm going to head back home. It's coming up to 5:30, and I've just come back to Wickham because I've got a meeting of the Wickham Voluntary Library Volunteers. Well, meeting now over. It was the committee of the trustees, not the volunteers, so I got that slightly wrong, but otherwise meeting went ahead. One bit of bad news is that we were hoping that business was going to take over the community room and turn it into a sort of business premises, but sadly they've decided not to go ahead with that. So we are looking to, well, the council is looking to find somebody else to take on the community room instead, and obviously provide an income from that. It is Friday the 29th of March 2019. This was meant to be the day we were leaving the European Union, and it ain't happening. Well, for me that's a hurrah, except for the fact that we can't leave it to the politicians to cancel Brexit. That must be a decision of the people in a referendum. So we wait to see whether that will ever happen. In the meantime, I'm up here in the Lib Dem office in Concert, and I'm printing various bits of literature. Most of it actually just for my own ward, but there's some for Lowfell as well. Right, the leaflet that's running off now is the back page of one of my Wickham South leaflets, but it'll also be the back page for the leaflets that we'll be putting out in Lobley Hill and Bensham and in Berkeley wards. Churning off the printer now is the annual report for the 3 Wickham South and Sunnyside councillors. It's the Wickham part of the ward that this leaflet or this focuses for, and that means 2,811 will come off in the next few minutes, and the Sunnyside version will be printed in a few days' time. So I finished printing for the day, and you can see this is the back page of the annual report. This is blank on the other side, because that will be, the other side will be used for printing the Sunnyside focus. This side is, you can see that is the front page of the focus, and on the back page is the annual report, and that's the bit that goes out in the Wickham part of the ward. And then down here we've got the back pages of a leaflet that's going to go out in Wickham South, but also it'll go out in Lobley Hill and Bensham and in Berkeley as well. So this is the back page, and on the front page there'll be a localised version. It is Saturday the 30th of March 2019. I've come up to Windmill Hill Park because we are doing a litter pick organised by Nick Seaborn, our candidate for Lobley Hill and Bensham. So in the park over there we'll be collecting litter, and then it's my job to get it all down to the municipal waste site down at Cowan Road and Blyden.
Are you there, honey? Where's he getting that from?
I wasn't sure for this.
The first 2 bags are now in the Land Rover. Lots more to come. Well, it's nice to see a small group of residents have turned up to give a hand as well, and they've responded to the leaflet that Nick put out through the week. Well, I'm pleased to say I have cleared this embankment. That blue sack at the top is now full of sand. Right, so we're starting to get quite a collection of sacks, so I'm going to stick this lot in the Land Rover, but on the other side of the site there's a load more sacks to go in as well.
Don't say anything. I'll just listen.
Right.
It's a lot of rubbish.
A lot of rubbish, right. We reckon what, how many bags?
20, I think 20 bags, I'm not sure. We can turn that into the next game, can't we? Guess the number of bags.
Yeah, could do it as a fundraising exercise. The Land Rover is full of bags of rubbish. I'm going to head down to Cowan Road to the waste site there to put this all into the skips there. I just spent the last hour going around Sunnyside with this. It's my nomination paper for the local elections. Having served 32 years, I've decided to give it another 4 years. So I need 10 signatures of local residents who are on the electoral register. That job's just been done. It's Sunday the 31st of March 2019. Look at it, yes, a nice Sunday. Back in the office, and today we have been printing more of my election leaflets for Wickham South and Sunnyside ward. So the printing and folding is now done. This is our Wickham annual report going out to the leafleters, well, probably this evening or maybe tomorrow. And then we've got another leaflet that we're putting out through the elections, and this is our Sunnyside annual report, which will be going out later this week. Now, for the first time ever, I've managed to get all my election printing done at the start of the campaign for my ward. I've got other wards to look after as well, but for my ward, hurrah, the big printing jobs are all done.